Gentlemen, welcome to the Businessmen Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning. I'm the creator and coach of the Businessmen Masterclass and Tribe. Masterclass being like the tactics, tools, the training, the techniques, everything we need to approach holistic success, right? Whole life success. It's everything physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, financial, the whole thing. It's getting our life so dialed in that it's actually easier, far easier to succeed when we have those tactics and tools and techniques, man, and the training and the team, right? And then the tribe. So the tribe then is a group of great men who are dedicated to being their best selves and supporting each other, cheering each other on, sharing our triumphs and our troubles, and working on this together to be the absolute best version of ourselves. Man, I love this stuff. Get to do this every day. It's amazing. All right, gentlemen, today's guest is Skylar Lewis. He is the founder of Rise Up Kings. He's the CEO of some 7- and 8-figure companies. He's a Christian coach and speaker and author, and he helps men rise up to their God-given potential. And man, we have an awesome conversation today. They just moved out to Texas. He's got a couple boys. They're homeschooling now. And he has just figured out some amazing systems for life and business. And he's got a business that's really running itself. He just checks in with it each week. But he talks through the strategies there, and it's true for business and it's true for life, where we can set up systems, these habits, these patterns, and we track them. And then, every time he stepped away, you're going to love this story. Every time he stepped away, there was something that would slip. And so he'd have to step back in and figure it out, get it totally dialed in, and then track it, right? And get everything going so that it worked without him. And then he could focus on the things that matter most, and his passion and his life purpose. Just an incredible story. So many great principles in here of how we can get our lives just really dialed in. We can simplify and document and then duplicate, and not leave things to chance like so many of us do. And we talk about what skills to gain and how to implement them, how to get them in place, and how to make them happen. We talk about rewriting your goals and seeing more reality, and then even leaning into your new reality and being prepared for the war of life. We talk about some of the most common problems among men right now and the underlying causes and what to do about it. You're going to love this episode. Let's jump in. All right, Skylar, super excited to have you here, brother, and to hear kind of your journey. You got a cool story and your book behind you. We'll talk about your book too, but this cool story of move and building your life and your business. We can dive into a bunch of it, but why don't you start by just giving us a bit of your background and kind of your story, where you started.
My story, yeah, I got a lot of stuff in there. So, I mean, I guess I'll start out. I grew up in a place called Hemet, California, and a small town, and kind of grew up on the other side of the tracks. And yeah, I just kind of always had a desire to be successful. I don't know. I feel like some people have that innate, just underlying desire. They have that ambition to go create or to go prove themselves. And so I felt like I had to prove myself. My parents got divorced when I was 4 years old. And yeah, man, just kind of struggled finding my identity and who I was as a kid, and got bullied in school. And
Same, man.
Yeah.
What
Kind of an
drove
interesting
you?
journey.
What do you think?
Huh?
Looking back now from this perspective, can you see something that was it a driving factor to prove that you could do it, or to try to stop it? What do you feel like was part of the driving factor?
Yeah, so what I found is, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and for entrepreneurs especially, most of them have an underlying need to prove themselves for significance, right? They're searching to prove they're significant. Like, hey, this is why I'm significant. I'm going to go build a big business, or I'm going to go have a cool, right? I'm going to go be an influencer on social media. I'm going to go have a big house, a nice car. I'm going to have these things. And so what happens is that they just learn to, they strive to prove themselves. They strive for significance. But what most of them don't realize it all stemmed from some childhood situation or instance, something that came up for them where they didn't feel worthy, they didn't feel secure in themselves, and so they decided, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go show the world. I'm gonna go prove myself. And it may be underlying. Like for many people, they don't even know that's driving them.
Right.
But it's a beautiful thing when you get to a place where proving your significance no longer drives you and you're driven by purpose instead. And that's a powerful place to live in, because then you just have free choice at that point. You're not being chained to having to do something for your significance.
Yeah. And so it's almost like kind of the chip on your shoulder thing. You kind of can take the chip off your shoulder and chase greatness, right? With a purpose and a vision. And there's the freedom instead of it's almost I totally get it, because I was the same thing, right? The divorce early on with my parents' divorce, and we were just broke, and I had this desperation, this hunger to get out of it. But then you're right, once you transition over, then there's this freedom and this peace where you can still chase it, but it's a different driving force.
Yeah, 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 for sure. And you mentioned greatness. It's interesting. My personal purpose statement, which I came up with about maybe 7 years ago, is it's to inspire others to reach for the greatness that exists in themselves through personal development and a closer relationship with Jesus. And so like I'm all about pursuing greatness. And it was interesting. I met with a pastor of one of the largest churches out here in Texas like 2 days ago, and I shared that with him. And I haven't really sat back and re-reflected on that a lot, on that statement. And he kind of called out the greatness side of it. He's like, interesting, greatness. It's like, do you believe that greatness is inside each person? And so, because if you're a Christian, you inherently believe that, hey, there is no greatness inside of us. Christ is what brings that in. And so he actually checked me. He was probing, kind of digging in. It was funny. The first time anybody's really dug into my life purpose. Right. And so I may be shifting that word around, right, to excellence, because greatness has become kind of a word. I feel like everyone's pursuing greatness. I mean, it's a cool word.
Yeah.
But it's gotten so the term, right? It's like we're all trying to be great as opposed to uh, love, right? And go serve, right? And go and tap into that. So I may be exploring
Oh,
shifting my statement.
that's good. And it's good to think through that. My thought has been like God created us with that spark of divinity, and so that's kind of been my definition around chasing greatness is chasing that potential that God has put in us with the intent to be a great force for good in the world. So that's good, man. It's good to think through that.
Yeah, it was interesting because if Christ is in us, like he's the greatness,
Right.
he's all right. And the Bible talks about there's no goodness in us, right, without Christ. And so he is the goodness, he's the greatness. Like, so we can pursue being the best versions of ourselves without Christ.
Yes.
But I think with Christ, that's where truly we get to tap into a whole nother level of power
And get to
and
do so
greatness.
much more.
Yep. Yep.
And so much more
Yeah,
for good.
totally. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think back on that living on purpose, that I feel like so many of us are just, yeah, again, striving and not understanding where, and there's people probably listening to your podcast that it's like, so what I've learned to do with my purpose statement is I've learned to check all the opportunities at the door of that statement. So if
yes.
anything doesn't align with that statement, right, then I will not do it. So I get business opportunities all the time, but if they're not in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing and where I should be spending my time, like I'll cut them out, because I know I only have so much time. So I'm going to use my time fulfilling like why I'm here,
Yep.
as opposed to finding these offshoots that get me excited. And so that's just a little nugget. If somebody does decide to tap in and search out like, hey, why am I here? What, and then if I could isolate it to a sentence, it's cool. Now you have something that can be your filter on what opportunities you take. Like, is it in alignment with what you were designed to do, or is it just a good money making opportunity or something fun? Like, hey, go do stuff that's in alignment with why you are here.
Yep. And that's a genius framework to operate from, because it makes decision making that much easier. So where you can let you use it like a filter, like every opportunity that comes to the door, it's like, well, does this fit with who I want to be, how I want to do life, and the standards I've established? And if it doesn't, it's a no, right? And if it is, great, let's consider it.
Hmm. Totally.
Man, that's a big one. Okay, let's circle back more to your story. We barely made it across the tracks. So you get in, and you became an entrepreneur and a businessman yourself. Did you always want to do that?
Yeah, I talk about it in my book, but yeah, man, I've always, and I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, they've started small businesses kind of early on, like a lot of them, not all of them. But for me, yeah, I started selling candy like in high school, but before that, I was doing lawn work, and I probably had 10 different businesses before I was 18 that I had started and launched and tried to make
Wow.
successful. And so yeah, I kind of have that in my blood. I love creating. I love providing value. And so yeah. So I've ever since I can remember, I've loved my mom. Actually, I always loved to compete. Now that I'm thinking about it, I grew up in a little mobile home, and I'd bring my friends over. It's just the memories coming back to me, and we'd play cards. We played cards, and I would always bet, and I'd always get them to bring pennies so that they could. I was probably like 8 years old, so that we could actually bet for pennies. And so I just loved. I love the hustle. I guess I love I loved. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, I enjoyed. Well, actually, maybe I enjoyed winning. So maybe
Right,
winning's in my blood too. Yeah, it's
right.
interesting.
Well,
Yeah,
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 man, I've had some awesome conversations with coaching clients and friends about that. Like, there's something there's something about winning and and achieving, right? And these the high achievers, you get hit and stuff, and well, it can be fulfilling and gratifying and exciting. So when did things finally just really take off for you and just hit it?
yeah. It didn't happen. I mean, I'll tell you when things really got messed up, and then I'll share with you when they took
Perfect.
off. But I was
Yes.
yeah, I hit rock bottom. So I started a couple businesses. I got my real estate license when I was 18. So all my friends were out partying. I was studying for my real estate license. Got it when I was 18. Tried to sell real estate for a year. Didn't sell one house.
Ooh.
Nobody wants to buy a house from a little punk 18-year-old kid. But so yeah, just struggled. And so got into financial services, did loans, did a bunch of stuff related to that. And then I ended up just struggling, man. I was trying to find my way, ended up losing all the money that I had. I filed for bankruptcy, and lost everything. I remember I was renting a room for my friends, not even my friend, it was a couple college kids. I was renting a room from them. And man, they would save money on electricity by shutting off the heat to the whole house, like during the nights, the cold nights. And so I'd be sitting in my room freezing. And I remember one day I told my dad about that. And then a week later, he shows up, knocks on the door, shows up to this house. The kids show him where my room is, and he shows up and he brought me a little space heater. One of those little space heaters you can kind of plug
Yep.
in. So he
Yep.
gave me one of those, and I remember just the joy that I had. Like, I'm so thankful for this space heater.
That's
Like, this is
awesome.
like the best gift ever. Because I had sold everything I had. All I had was a bed in there. And that was actually about the time I met my wife, Jessica. Was at that time. So I met her, my future wife. I met her at my rock bottom, like bottom, struggling, lost everything, and and then I feel like when I met her, stuff really shifted. And they always say, "Hey, you're women really bring out the best in
Yep.
men." I feel like they completely do. It's so accurate.
Yep.
Unless you got a crazy woman, they could bring out the worst in
They can bring in
men.
the worst. Yep.
So yeah. So it depends on who you're working with. But a
Yep.
good woman, right? A good woman. My uncle always said, if you can find a woman that like wouldn't even kill a bug, that was like that kind-hearted, like just that kind-hearted, you got to marry her. And so Jessica happened to be one of those women that was like just really kind, like just a genuinely authentic, kind person. So when I first met her out on the dance floor, I could tell immediately that I was in love, not just because
That's
of her outfit, but I could tell she was a kind person
that
also.
is
So
awesome.
yeah,
And how old were you then?
I was 20, I think it was about 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. And were you in church then? Were you Christian? Were you
No,
part of the
yeah, I grew up a Christian, but I would know, man, I was out partying, I was out hooking up with women as much as I possibly could, dude. I mean, as much as I could. Uh, yeah, just on a bad path, a really bad path. And so I wasn't really going to church at that time. I walked away. I grew up Christian, but then I just found myself being pretty hypocritical by the way I acted. And so I figured, hey, you know what? I don't want to give God a bad name. So I'm just gonna not even talk about God and kind of do my own thing.
right?
Right. And so I walked away. I said, yeah, I distanced myself. Yeah, because I'd be in my high school gym, gym getting girls to flash me, but then I'd be carrying my Bible around the high school. Like I was the kid that carried his Bible around. And so
Oh,
it was just a bad deal
yep.
all around, just a bad deal. So yeah, so anyway, so no, when I met Jessica, like she had just found Jesus. I knew who Jesus was, and so we started going to church.
Fantastic. So it was really, she was a big catalyst
Yeah.
for a major turning point.
Yeah, I'd like to say it was something else, but no, it was finding an amazing woman and wanting
That's
to
incredible.
correct my path.
Okay. So then from there, what happens? What starts to change?
Yeah, yeah, just gotta. I mean, I was doing. There was. I started looking for different opportunities to make money. I remember I was driving, and I was driving with Jessica. I was dead broke. She had a nice BMW. She had her own condo. She was actually very successful, and it was I had an opportunity. I was at a crossroads. I could either go get a job. I haven't had a job in years, like I mean, since I was like 16, or I could go borrow some money from somebody and go start a little business. I believed I knew a good marketing method to start doing loan modifications when they were starting back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I asked her while we were driving in the BMW. I said, "Hey, can I borrow $1,000?"
No
Like we were
way.
probably like 3 weeks in to
No
dating,
way, man.
and she ended up lending me $1,000. And I found out later she had told all of her friends that she would never date a guy that would ask to borrow money from her. So I guess I had the charisma or the charm or something, or I got lucky, or she was desperate, one of those two or three. So anyway, so I borrowed $1,000, and yeah, bought some mailers, started sending out mailers, had a really good law firm that was back that we were able to send these loan modifications through, and then bought 1,000 mailers, and then closed one low modification, sent more out, closed some more, send more. I kept reinvesting all the money, and within 3 months, we had moved from Temecula to Carlsbad, San Diego, and hired our first employee. She was helping out, hired our second, and then we scaled it within a year all the way to 20. We had 20 reps at our call center. So I was about 24. We had 20 reps. We were doing a little over like 1.5 million in revenue that year. And so I had the skills, right? I had a new market, a new sales. I just hadn't found the right place to be able to do that. But we ended up selling that business, and then moved back to Temecula and started a carpet cleaning company because my dad had been in the industry and I believed I knew how to market that. So
Fantastic. Man, what a,
yeah.
I love emphasizing stories like this because where you were to then where you got within 12 to 18 months or even 24 months, that like it doesn't take long to totally turn around a life.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. When you have concentrated effort, yeah, it does not.
That's so cool. So then this new business, is that the business that do you still own this carpet cleaning business? Is that the
Yes, I
one that
launched I launched Superior Cleaning in Temecula, and then we scaled that fast. I mean, about within 3-4 months, we had a couple vans. Within a year, we had like I think we had 5 vans going. We grew it to a couple million in revenue, like very, very quickly, and ended up we had one of our my my vision has always been to have a company that could run itself. I always wanted to have a business that could run on its own without me. And so I thought I got the business to that place. We were about 2 years in, and uh, we were 2 years in, and I was like, cool, we're here. And so we're like, hey, let's go on a cruise. And so we decided to go on a week and a half long cruise. And while we were there, I felt this urge that my office manager I didn't fully trust her. And so I told Jessica, I said, hey babe, do you trust Nikki? Like our office manager? Like I trust her mostly, but there's something about her I don't trust. And she said, I have that same vibe. And so I said, okay, well, here's the deal. I don't want anybody working for us that we don't completely trust. And so we need to move on from her. So we got back and then we fired her on the spot when we got back. And then about a week later or 2 weeks later, my office manager came in, my new one, Stephanie, who I promoted. She was the assistant, promoted her to office manager when we let Nikki go. And then she came into our office and she had this distraught look on her face. And she was just like, hey, I need to talk to you guys. I've been calling to collect money from the clients, and all of them have said they've already paid us, but there's no account for any of the money that they've paid. And so I guess Nikki had been embezzling for almost a year from us,
Wow.
right under our nose. Like, and we had trusted this lady. We let her watch our kid at a certain point. I mean, we like put a lot on her. And so it was just a huge lesson, man, that A, keep your eye on the ball, and B, like, don't work with people that you don't trust. Like, if you don't trust them and there's some vibe, you got to figure out, hey, what's the reason I don't trust them? Or if you don't trust them, don't do business with them.
Yep.
Huge learning lesson for us. And also make sure you have proper checks and balances in your company,
Yes.
right? For with accounting and bookkeeping and everything tied into that. So we ended up shutting the whole carpet cleaning division down, and we just launched Superior Restoration, which was a water and fire restoration company. And we've had that for now about 12 years.
Fantastic.
And that's the company that, yeah. So that company's I'm in Texas, out here in Dallas, and that company's in California. That runs on its own. So that's what the book was based off of. When I wrote that book 2 years ago, I was doing 2 days a week, and now I moved to Texas this last year. And so now it's about an hour a week. I meet with my executive team over Zoom, and then I go out there once a quarter. I was just out there last month, once a quarter to meet with the team for a day. And the thing is even more profitable actually without me. Like, when you find the right team members and you get the right processes in place, your company can run many times better without you than with you present. Like, it seems crazy to even think that, but it's totally a reality. Like, if you do that, right? I know you do a lot of, you teach different things kind of tied into that. And so it's just, if you take the time to build it right, it will thrive. But most people spend more time working in the business than they do on it. And they're out watching Netflix and they're BS and doing all this stupid stuff. We don't watch TV. So I'm out studying and learning and developing my craft.
Yes. Oh man, we're going to get into all that. Because you become a master of systems, and obviously you've got some habits in place that facilitate all that. I want to circle back to this trust thing. Besides just like sensing it, like, how do you measure trust? Do you have some kind of process? Like, because you're right, trust is the key element, especially if you're trying to walk away from, step out of your business and let it run, or in any business relationship, any relationship. You have a process for feeling out trust?
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's interesting. We talk about our intuition, right? So the intuition, how that works in relation to trusting people is, our subconscious brain stores little bits of information. Every time we have an interaction with somebody, it's storing where they're looking, their facial expression, if they're smiling or not, if what they're doing, if their shoulders are down. And then what happens is, if we get betrayed, even as a kid, by somebody, our brain subconsciously locks in the patterns of that person. And so over tens of thousands of interactions through a lifetime, your intuition can become pretty strong. Like, there's something about this person, I just don't know what it is. Most of the time you won't know, but your subconscious is like, the way that guy looked, the way he talked, he's lying, right? Something's off. And so our mind knows, our conscious mind doesn't know. And so, but you have to be careful, because sometimes there could be a trustworthy person that maybe has some mannerisms that they picked up when they were untrustworthy before.
Right.
And so you got to be careful. Your intuition may not always be right, but we have to learn. So I've learned to trust my intuition though. If there's something about the person, more often than not, I can feel something's up. Chances are either that person's untrustworthy or that relationship maybe won't serve me. So I trust my intuition when it comes to interacting with people. And then I also don't give them too much, right? I'll start small and just not dump everything on. As an example, I just hired a new assistant. I'm not gonna give them everything. I'm gonna keep a short leash and make sure that person, make sure I can fully trust them, because there's a couple different versions of trust. There's immature trust, which is like what a kid has. Hey, you're my dad. I'm going to trust you that you're going to do everything the right way. Chances are you're going to have your trust broken by your parents. So there's an immature trust and there's a mature trust. So mature trust is interesting. Mature trust is different. Mature trust says you will betray me. At some point, you're going to let me down. I know it. It's a fact. At some point, you're going to let me down. That's a mature trust, right? To believe the immature says, oh, if they told me they'll never lie to me, they'll never lie to me. That's immature. That's not reality, right? Life situations happen. People
Right.
shift. People change. There most likely will be a time that your best friend will hurt you,
Right.
right? And so it's not like, hey, you broke my trust. It's what level of trust are you at? Are you immaturely trusting people that you just go by the word, or mature trust stays in close contact with people and can gauge, you know what? This person's starting to become untrustworthy. I'm watching their behavior. I'm watching the interaction with me. There's a chance that guy may break my trust, right? So I'm mature in my relationships with trust. I know with you, right? Even if we had a tight relationship, at some point you could break my trust. I'm not going to be distraught, but I'm going to keep a close enough eye in our relationship to make sure I'm showing up, you're showing up, and we can have that solid relationship. And I'm not thrown off guard when you lie about something or something happens.
Right.
So
So you're just paying attention
exactly.
and
A lot of
keeping.
people, once they feel like they trust someone, they take their eye off.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can trust them. I'm not going to verify anything anymore. No, be mature about it. Like, people will break your trust.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the way, one of the things I love to look at with trust is this, it's the idea of both competence and character, right? Character is like good person and trying to do the right thing. And then competence of like the ability to do the task. Can you trust them in both of those areas? And with both of them, yeah, you're watching it and having that maturity in the relationship. I love that.
So break that down one more time. That was good.
So it's character and competence. So like I totally trust my wife's character, but I wouldn't trust her to do surgery on my shoulder, right?
Yep.
Because like, no, you don't have the competence to do that. But if I know she's good at a thing and she's a good person, that for me is like that's that perfect Venn diagram of like, boom, got it, character and competence. And so each person has their role, what they're capable of doing well, and then just character. Are you a genuinely good person?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
man, I love
That's
that.
good.
Okay, then I know you've become a master of systems. Walk us through that, man. How did you? I'm sure there was some trial and error in that and getting that figured out, but like systems are everything.
They are everything. What I realized is early on is that if I left it up to my team members to be able to remember everything and to make sure all the little pieces of my business thrive, then I was let down so many times in so many of my businesses that I realized people are imperfect. They're going to forget to do things. So then I started to put guardrails in place. Like, how do I make sure this happens every single time? Right. And so I started to build these processes to make sure that my team members could fit inside of them and that they could follow the same process. Right. They talk about McDonald's all the time. And it's funny. McDonald's is a restaurant, right? And a restaurant, I mean, they're one of the hardest businesses to run. And so like they've mastered processes. Can a 19-year-old, right? They get 19-year-old managers that run the entire restaurant. Can a 19-year-old kid run your business? It's like, well, no. Then you are like you have a lot of work to do around processes. How do you take a 19-year-old and run a multi-million-dollar restaurant? And yet we're struggling to have somebody show up on, it's kind of a mess. And so I'm all about processes. And so what does that mean though? It means anything that you can do that you can find a way to simplify. I kind of have a formula, simplify, right? The first part of developing a process is to simplify the process. So if you have an incoming call or simplify what's said on that incoming call, that first call to your client, or maybe it's an incoming marketing call, simplify what the person says, then document it, right? Simplify it, then document it, then duplicate it. So document it with SOPs and then duplicate that same process over and over again. That's how you scale. That is the process to scaling, is you go duplicate. You duplicate what processes you have, and then you go scale those processes over either regions or locations or inside your business.
Oh, that's awesome. So it's simplify, document, and duplicate.
Yeah.
And is this something like you personally would go through and went through, just got it dialed in, and then you train the people to take over? Is that kind of
Yeah. So that was one of the first things I did was in my business was I wanted to find a way that I could start stepping out of it. And so but every time I stepped out of the business, processes kept breaking down. And so I realized they weren't actually processes. They were just people doing tasks. It wasn't like a duplicatable process. And so I would just say, hey, make sure you fill out this checklist after every job. That's not a complete process, because then when I leave and I'm not paying attention, then they're like, oh, I'm not going to do that.
doesn't get done.
So part of having a good process is having oversight over the process. So that is the bow on top that encapsulates the whole process. You got to have some type of oversight. And so I use a lot of dashboards in my company. So I'll have dashboards that show me to make sure all the processes are still running. Hey, did we get all the checklists from all the jobs today? Right? I want one report I can pull that shows all the checklists for all the jobs are now in the folder with the jobs. So like I make sure that I have all of the processes. I have a report to see and to make sure the processes are being followed. And so I started building that because my wife, she wanted to live by the beach. And so we ended up moving to the beach away from the company. And so we were an hour away. And so I decided to only work 4 days a week instead of 5 days. So that fifth day, I had to have I needed to be able to see and make sure everything was still running. And so I started to have reports and kind of what I call dashboards to check in on the processes.
Fantastic. And I imagine you still do that today. Is there a
Oh
report
yeah, no. So I log in and
week?
yeah, Dallas. I got a scoreboard I can pull up right now that has every part of the whole business. I can tell where cash flow is, where sales are at, where business development activities are. I see every piece of the whole company on one document that I can cloud spreadsheet that I can see everything.
So essentially, in a moment, because you've trained yourself and you know what you're looking for, in a moment, you can put a finger on the pulse and see where it's at.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's even color coded. So if one of the numbers is low, it turns red. And then that way I know, okay, I got to check in with hey, shoot a little email. Hey, what's going on with this? And then the process restarts again. And, so if it's slowed down or if it's stopped, if it's not working properly, it's a machine. So we're really building a machine. That's what in business, that's what we're doing. We're building, I think of it as a gearbox, right? We have all these gears. And then the machine is all these gears and they're all running smoothly. And normally though, people are hand cranking each gear. But if you do it right, you can hand crank one gear, right, which is the CEO or your team, and then all the gears move. And that's the way, like each gear though is a process. Right. You have to take the time to go build each gear and to make sure your sales process, your cash collection process works well, right? It's all a process, not just something people do one off. Like, and I tell my team, if you're going to send an email to a client, don't just send one email. Make sure if it's different from what you would send, don't send it. Turn it into like a process where we can use that same email every time now. That's all building the processes. If you take it in the simplest form, like as an example, we put on events here at the property and I was emailing, we had our assistant or our event assistant that would constantly email people to verify they had their hotel booked. She'd shoot an email out. Hey, just want to make sure you got your hotel booked. And I told her to, hey, stop. How do we make sure that email goes out automatically to everybody?
Every time. Yep.
Every time. And so now when someone signs up for our event, they get an automatic email, has your hotel booked. If they don't respond back, yes, they get another email a week later. And until they respond yes, it actually goes into our system. And then it goes to another email, how you finish your intake form. And then so now we've like automated all the processes to where it's just not one-off emails that can, because we can forget. I will forget. And actually, that's one of the reasons I built this stuff. I used to not be that detailed. I would miss details and miss stuff. My wife is amazing, but I would miss details. So I started building guardrails around myself. Like, how do I make sure I don't miss that detail?
Yep.
Right. I think of when we're bowling, right? All the bumpers. right? You got to put the bumpers up. So it's like, how do you make it so you can't fail? And I even do that with team members. If I have a team member that's a quality guy, but that sucks at details, I'll go build bumpers around him and to make it so he can be successful. I won't just fire the guy because he's missing details. I'll build processes around him.
Right. Take the right guy in the right seat and build the processes to help him succeed so that you can't fail. I love that.
Totally.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And then, well, just that, I want to emphasize that just that simple email example. So instead of having a team member doing that every time for every person that signs up again and again and again, that adds up. That just turns into wasted money down the road over years of doing that. And where you just take it to a process, automate it, man, now you free up time and space and energy and resources for all kinds of other stuff. Huge.
Exactly.
How does this, I mean, you get to work with men every day, all the time, from all different kinds of backgrounds. How does this idea of processes and systems in business, how does that play over into the life of a man? Like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, financial? How have you seen that fit into life?
Yeah, I love it. Great question. So yeah, at our we have our events, right? At Rise Up Kings, our 3-day events. And what we do is with these events, we teach them kind of our philosophy. And I've seen other guys coming up with different things. And so it's so we've taken process and business and we've built it into a man's personal life.
Yeah.
And so I have I looked it up. In 2014. I started tracking on a spreadsheet 4 areas of my life. I think I called it spiritual, business, social. There's a couple, and I started every single day. I started tracking the daily behaviors that would get me results in those lives, in those areas.
Yeah.
And so I have the spreadsheet from 2014 all the way till the last 6 years until I built my app 2 years ago. And so so basically what we do is we teach men, hey, if there's a system to showing up with power, there's a system to growing closer with God. There's a process. There's these daily disciplines, like working out daily, like reading your Bible daily, investing in your marriage daily, like doing these things every single day. And so we have something called the 4 pillars, which I think you may have something kind of similar to that, but it's faith, family, fitness, and finance. And so we've narrowed them down to 4.
Yeah.
And so we have different ways to invest in those every single day. And it's proven to be very fruitful. We have about 250 guys in our mastermind. After the event, we get an opportunity to invite them to a mastermind. And these guys do it every day. We have a whole app. There's a whole leaderboard. There's a whole process for all this stuff. And no joke, like I get guys regularly that text me and say, hey, just the 4 pillars of investing daily has changed my life. Like I'm a better husband. I'm more physically fit. I'm closer with God. Like I'm showing up. And so
that is huge.
And the reason I built this was because I was so inconsistent. Like I would work out 3 or 4 days, but then I'd go take a week off. I would read the Bible 3 or 4 days and then I'd fall off. Like I was just so inconsistent that I started to have to track these things. And so I started tracking these every day. Like if I could get one skill, and for your listeners, right? If you can get one skill and build one habit or 2, I would say waking up early is one of the best habits you can possibly have. And then tracking your habits, like opening up a spreadsheet or an app or whatever you have every day, but making that a lifelong commitment. The cool thing is, like, whatever you track improves.
Yep.
Like anything. And so they're like, no, I'm not even kidding. So if you're not working out at all and you start tracking working out and you don't stop tracking it though, even though you do a 0, 0, 0, 0, like you're not working out. It's a 0 every day. I do 0s and 1s if I work out. Eventually you'll be like, this is freaking stupid. I'm just going to go work out today. I'm tired. It's been 2 months since I put 0s, right? So as long as you have the habit of tracking, you can pretty much add anything on there and it will improve. Like you will, anything. So in my business, anything I start tracking, it starts improving. Any metric I start tracking just by the fact of tracking it.
Yes, exactly. Man, I met with this, he was a sports psychologist, but he was working with like the most elite military forces in the world. And we were talking, this was years ago. And he's like, look, I tell my guys, literally rewrite their top goal every single day. He says, because only one of two things will happen. Either you'll stop writing your goal or you'll achieve it. So
Yeah.
every morning you just
So good.
touch it, right? And that's exactly what you're talking about there. The 0 or the 1 every day, and it's going to do something. Either you're going to stop tracking or you're going to start getting results.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting on that note regarding writing your goal down. It's the subconscious mind, very powerful. It can go achieve a lot if we direct it, our subconscious mind. Like it sees things we don't see. Like we do some stuff at our event where we show the guys, they don't actually see reality. Like there's stuff in the room they don't even know is in the room.
Yeah.
But they're like, yeah, no, I see everything. Actually, you see like 20% of the world or 10% of the world. You're not seeing the entire world. And so what happens is when you write down your goal or you reread your goal daily, it helps your subconscious forgets daily. So every single day, your subconscious forgets what it's supposed to go after. And so if you have to remind it daily. You have to remind your mind daily of what it's supposed to go conquer, what it's supposed to be going after. And so writing it down that's a great way to do that. Highly recommend that.
And keep paying attention to the target. So let's dive in a little bit more. Like, what's early for you personally? And I know everyone's going to have kind of a different schedule and a different setup. But what's early for you? And do you have some specific routines you follow? Rituals, maybe?
Yeah, I'm a huge ritual guy when it comes to morning routines. So I wake up at either 4 or 5. I was doing 4 o'clock for like years. I just switched over to 5 o'clock for a couple months. I'll probably go back to 4. So I wake up at either 4 or 5.
Yep.
So I wake up, I go grab my coffee. I sit on the couch. My Bible's right there. I read the Bible. I pray. My laptop's there. After that, I open my laptop. I review my goals for the day. I review my affirmations, and then I check off a couple things on my app. And so I'll go through that whole process. It takes me about 45 minutes. And then I'm ready. And then I'll usually go do something for my wife. I'll make her coffee, or I will prepare her Keurig, right? Because she's not awake. And so I'll go get her coffee set up. I'll clear out the water. I'll put a little love note. I'll do something for her in the morning. And then by 5 o'clock, if I woke up at 4, it's about an hour in, I'll go work out. So I'll go do my workout, and then I'm done by 6 usually. So I accomplish usually the 4 pillars by about 6:30 every morning. So that's my exact routine I do every single day though.
Gold. You've already addressed mind, body, and spirit before most people even wake up.
Yeah. Huge. Yeah. It's just nice because when you now I've been doing that maybe about 5 years now, like every day. So so that's my routine. And I used to push a specific routine, but pick a routine and just go for it, right? That's like what each person's a little different. Those things though will help you show up with more power, but to each their own, right? Find something that works and just go with it.
Yep. That turns the power on. Out of curiosity, do you have a favorite place you like to read in the Bible?
Yeah, it's on my couch. I sit on my couch in the morning.
I mean, that's awesome too. Is where that's cool, and you have it all set up, right? Your system set up there. But like in the Bible, do you have a certain section of
favorite book? Yeah, well, I love. I used to love Proverbs. I mean, that's one of my favorite books. But Proverbs is great, and I think just the gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I love. I take that back. It's definitely Acts and Romans are my favorite. My favorite books. I can spend a lot of time in there. And there's just so much wisdom, and just watching how the early church got started and the struggles they had and the trials. And also James, one of my favorite Bible verses is James 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And perseverance must finish its work so you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything, right? Consider it pure joy when you have trials of many kinds. Like it's just so backwards to what society says. Society's like, hey, be comfortable, go for retirement, like just set your life up so it's easy. No, consider it joy actually when you have trials of many. That's what the Bible's telling us. And so like I just got these things. Hold on. I don't know if you've seen these. I just tried these out last week.
No.
Man, this is intense. It's probably one of the most painful things I've done.
Is that for your feet?
These are very sharp nails. You stand on them. So I did 3 minutes
Hold
the first
up.
time, and then
Like you're standing up all your body weight on like
all your body weight on
spikes.
these. Yeah, very painful.
Whoa.
Very, very painful. And so I did 10 minutes like 3 days ago. And you have it's
Dude.
I'm preparing my mind for war, right? I'm preparing
Yeah.
my mental. I need to be strong. I need to be prepared. I don't want to be soft when I run into a trial and I'm like, why God?
Yep.
Why did you give me this trial of, my wife struggling or maybe cancer in my family? Or I mean, you could name anything. So
Right.
I'm mentally and emotionally preparing myself. Like, hey, I can take it.
And physically, you start with a physical catalyst to get the mental, emotional, spiritual strength.
Yeah, because it's all like, yeah, it's physical pain, right? But it's all mental.
Yeah.
Like you, dude, to stick past 1 minute on these things
Dude.
is a mental battle
I
that
gotta
is
I gotta
pretty
try
intense.
those.
You got to try them. They're pretty bad. Like yeah, my video guy, he brought him in. He's like, you got to try these, and I'm like, oh, shoot, okay, here we go.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
That's cool. No, but it's right. And I love that you were quoting from that and you committed those things to memory. We actually have a little book. Same thing with our kids. We memorize poems, quotes, scriptures, getting those things as a family in our family devotionals. We memorize those. With one of the things, so I committed to learn a new language every 5 years, just become fluent in a new
Wow.
language. And as soon as I get a base, I go and I go through the Gospels in that new language and do it as
Mm.
many times as I can.
Oh
It
wow.
helps so much to get fluency increased. So I went through the Gospels like 4 or 5 times in French. And it's one of the steps in language. So I was just curious.
You got to go learn some Latin. Have you chose Latin yet? That
So
would be incredible to read the Bible, the
right
Latin
in that,
Bible.
or
Yeah.
and then in the dream world, you even study in the original Greek or something, the New
Yeah.
Testament, of
Yeah, we were in
course.
Greece, like I said a couple weeks ago, and there's just it's just incredible to yeah. Yeah. We went and saw Mars Hill
Yes.
and got to see where Paul spoke in
Yep.
Acts, and it's just
Yep.
a really amazing. You've done a lot of traveling, I think a lot more than I have, but we want to go to Turkey, and then we want to go check out
Yes.
Corinth, and there's a few different places. Obviously,
That's
Israel is
so
on our
awesome.
list.
Israel's amazing. Turkey's amazing. Ah, it's so
Is
good,
it?
man. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah. And it's so fun when you can have that connection to a place and in this instance, the Bible or a book or some lesson or something you're learning and then connect it and then do it with the kids. So pre-recording, fellas, we were talking about traveling with the kids and like home education and stuff like that. And it's just when you can connect that mental framework and the scaffolding for kids and for us when we're learning and then be in the ground and like touch the place, it's man, it's transformational.
Where have you traveled with the kids?
So we've taken our kids to 35 countries so far. But here's the crazy thing. We asked the kids, I'm like, hey, where do you want to do Christmas this year? And they just were like, let's do Norway. Like Norway, it's like gonna be cold and freezing. They're like, yeah, let's go. So then we're going to Norway, and then after that, we're like, okay, well, let's do something. And my daughter's had this crazy idea. She saw a video one time of some guy just hitting all these countries, and she's like, let's just do 15 countries. I'm like, that's exhausting. She's like, I don't want to do it, but we figured it out. So we're going to do a train trip from Norway through Scandinavia, down through Eastern Europe, all in trains and backpacks, and then all across Western Europe, all the way over to Portugal. And so it'll be 15 more countries that will add in the list. And
Wow.
like, we're going to do that in January, but just so
How
stoked.
old's your youngest?
She's 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
That is intense.
It's awesome. But she's been in like 20 countries, man. The little one. It's awesome.
Yeah,
But the
that was
experiences are
special
amazing.
when we took him to Greece. Yeah, and then Budapest, and they
Yeah.
just got to see the different cultures.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. Like I feel like we're hooked now.
Yeah.
That was our first time doing an international trip with both the kids.
Nice.
So it's wow, I'm a virgin compared to you. Check that out.
Well,
35 countries.
it's
That's
just cool. Well, you just experience it, right? You take your boys there and they have that experience of seeing it whatever, the foods, the parks. We'd go to the coolest places in the world, and our kids would be like, do they have a park here? We're like, yeah, let's go to the park, man.
Yeah.
They didn't catch all of it, but it's
Yeah.
formative, and
Hmm.
it's such a cool experience to do that.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's
Cool.
I want to shift back. Like, what are you seeing uh that's not working for men? What are some of the problems and the underlying causes? As you're working closely with all kinds of good men, like, what are you seeing out there? What are men struggling with? What's causing problems in their lives?
Yeah. Yeah. I would probably say lack of authentic community for sure. Like there's not a community that they're connected with and a group of brothers that they're connected with that they can be very real with and share their darkest, deepest fears and concerns. Like on one of our intake sheets, we have a question: do you feel like anybody truly knows you? And on the surface, it's like, yeah, people know me. In general, many men don't feel like people truly know them. The thing is, we wear masks,
Yeah,
right? We have these masks. We have the nice guy mask, or we have the dickhead mask, or we have these different masks that we wear that protect who we truly are. And so if we never truly share our deepest fears and insecurities with our wife doesn't actually know us. I was um I was in Greece, and I've been making an effort just to be as transparent. I want Jessica to see, to know who she has as her man, right? I don't want any fakeness. I want full transparency. I'm talking full transparency. And so I was out at the beach, right? Europe, all the freaking European bikinis. So everybody's walking, tons of women, tiny thongs. I mean, just a couple nude ladies, and I noticed myself looking. Like I kept catching myself like wanting to look and looking, and it started bothering me after like the second, third day. It was like really bothering me, and so I ended up sharing with Jessica. I'm like, hey, by the way, uh, or she asked if well, I asked her if I could pray for anything, and she asked if there was anything that she could pray for me.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
said, yes, I'd love it if you prayed. I'm noticing myself looking at other women
yep,
and look at them, and that's not, obviously that's why I'm saying this. I don't want to do that.
yep,
And so I've made it a point to be very transparent with her and share if I look at porn or if I mess up on something, or and there's consequences to that, right? It causes damage in the
yep,
relationship. It can hurt her feelings.
yep.
I mean, it took her a couple days to recover just from even that.
I
However,
was gonna ask about that, because when you have that kind of authenticity, it's not without consequence.
yeah,
And
no, it's
you have to have your relationship in a spot where it can handle that.
yeah, you have to have your relationship in a spot, and you have to be willing to risk your relationship to get it to the next level.
Yep.
Like, and so the question is, are you willing to risk your relationship to get it to the next level? In your friendship, are you willing to call shit out the way it is? Or do you not address those things? So are you willing to risk, have the relationship no longer be there, to be authentic and to step in and to be real and to with the intent of getting the relationship to the very next level. And
Yeah.
so most relationships never get to the next level because they're not willing to risk it.
Yeah.
Very scary when you're talking about an intimate relationship like a marriage.
Yeah.
And so when I first met Jessica, I fell in love. I knew she was the woman. Like I knew she was the woman. I mean, everything I wanted. And I committed to her that I would only date her, like probably 3 4 months in the relationship. Like we were going fast, and I made a huge deal out of it. I got her all these flowers. I put one white rose, all the red. I said, "You're the only one for me." I made this huge deal, commit like overcommitted, and then got a text message one night when Jessica was away at an event. Got a text message from my ex girlfriend, and she said, "Hey," it said, "Hey, do you want to meet up?" I was like, crap, where I felt that initial adrenaline rush, and dude made the stupidest decision, ended up meeting with her, having sex with her on the side of the road in our car, and freaking dude, bad news, super bad news. But I was at an event, not an event. We were doing our marriage counseling before we were about to get married. We were about to get married it was about 2 months. And the pastor said, here's your chance. You have one opportunity to get everything out on the table. If you do not get everything out on the table, you're going to hold something inside. It's going to take from the marriage. Like that will take up energy inside of you. So I'm like, damn it.
That's huge.
And so I ended up, yeah. So I said, okay, like, here's the deal. Like, it can go 50-50 right now. Cause she was to cheat on her. She was successful. I mean, could have easily meant the end of the marriage. But I remember sitting there as I shared it. I'm like, here we go. Like, this could literally mean the end of my dream relationship. We're about to get married.
Yep.
But I was willing to risk. Now that I've never shared that part, tying it to willing to risk the relationship. I was willing to risk the relationship so I could be the best husband for her.
Yep.
Right. And so I didn't have any energy inside of me, any guilt, any shame that was holding me back.
Dude, that's huge. Well, it fits with the wording, like what you hold back in that way will naturally hold back your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
There are levels of love and connection that can't be had if you're hiding something.
Mm-hmm.
And it just festers and rots there.
It does, man.
But man, I can imagine that had some consequences too.
Oh yeah, no, it's lasted our entire marriage. The consequences aren't done. That was 12 years ago.
Yep.
So now every time I bring something up, it triggers the wound.
Right.
So it's kind of just something we're both willing to live with. We have an epic marriage. I mean, like, I would call it level 12 out of 10. It's fun and hard, and we go through the pain, but we just work through it quick. Right? Like, we're going to bring stuff up. It's going to hurt. We're going to hurt each other, and then we're going to move on quickly. And so it's it did damage. It did a tremendous amount of damage to her heart, her soul, sharing that. And our marriage is probably better because of it. Like, I don't know if our marriage would have had this level of depth and transparency and honesty and vulnerability if that would have not happened.
Especially if you're trying to hide it all these years.
Yeah.
It would have torn you up, man.
Hoping it doesn't come out of it. Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Hope this never comes up. You're so right, man. Wow. Okay, what else? What else is working in marriage, man?
Working in marriage?
Yeah.
Do
you guys date?
Oh yeah, we do date nights every week. We had a date night yesterday. Yeah, so we do date nights, and we actually got in a fight yesterday on our date night. It was regarding that thing that in Greece. It came back up because I could tell she was unsettled.
Right.
And I wanted to address it because I wanted her to get, I could tell there was something still there. So I brought it up again at dinner. We ended up going to bed at 8:00. We were both tired, and just the date night was shot. And like today we woke up totally reconnected. She wrote a long message. And so what's working, I would say communication is huge, right? Like, being willing to have the hard conversations. It takes balls. It takes courage. It takes courage to have these really challenging conversations. And then also, date nights, 100% date nights. We've been doing date nights ever since we had our kids, right? Our oldest is 10. So 10 years ago we dated all the time before, but yeah, every single week. We've missed weeks, but in general, every week we do date night and connect. It just allows, we're so busy, it just allows for that emotional intimacy.
Yep.
And a lot of guys are craving sexual intimacy, but guess what precedes sexual intimacy? Emotional intimacy.
Talking. Real conversation with your wife, and that conversational intimacy.
100%. Yeah, because of that conversation we had the night. Actually, we didn't do date night last night. It was the night before. Yeah. Because of that, we were kind of opened up that intimacy. We ended up having sex later that night.
Yep.
Not the night that we had date night, but the night before. It just brought it all together. Yep. Right. But I could have avoided it and said, hey, let's just move on, right? Let's just move on. But no, it's having the hard conversations rips us open and exposes us and creates emotional intimacy. That's what intimacy is. Into me, I see.
Yeah.
Intimacy. So into me. So she wants to see inside of me She wants to know my darkness, my depth, and I want to see inside of her. That's what intimacy
Yep.
is like you see inside of them. But most people have their walls built up.
Absolutely. And they even have it from themselves. They won't even face their own abyss. Like, well, we can get into like Carl Jung in the psychology, right? Just walking up and facing the abyss and looking into the darkness and the void. I think one thing that works so well for you, I'm hearing you, and definitely for us, is quick recovery. Like that's one thing we have just mastered. Like if something comes up, let's address it.
How do you guys do it? What's your strategy around that? I love hearing that.
Mine came in early on. So like I was out on my own at 16. Well, parents divorced, stepdads came and went. I was out on my 16. Crazy temper, brother. Like crazy temper. And I realized luckily, like late teens, early 20s, I'm like, I can't, there's no way I can bring this craziness into a marriage and raising kids. Like this just won't work. And so I made this personal commitment just to let go of the temper and stop playing the victim and get rid of the anger. Cause I'm like, but now I'm like, look, only small people are bothered by small things. Like, let's go. Like I'm being small here. And so I learned this process of like, I'm not going to let things bother me. Cause somebody would cut me off on the way to university, right? In the morning, I'd still be pissed at night. Like, oh, and I'm like, well, I just gave up my whole day because somebody, and maybe they were on the way to the hospital. So I don't even know, like, what am I doing holding on to stuff? So personally, I just started letting go of things quickly. So I'm like, I'm not going to let people sabotage my day. I'm not handing over my power. And so something to get in, I'm like, and then process it, not bury it, but process it. I'm like, I'm going to bring it up, walk through it, and let it go. So I came into marriage kind of already doing that. And then two of us just realized, like, we don't like being upset at each other. We don't like being upset at all. We don't like just going through the day or missing out on this amazing experience with our kids or this beautiful situation with somebody else because we're distracted by our own emotions or our own pain or whatever. So we learned how to process quickly. Like, let's talk about this. We're not, and my wife's awesome about it. She will not let something go, man, which is perfect. Like, we're not just gonna, because a lot of couples, they just play. They just like, oh, we'll get to it, or they don't even bring it up. I'm sure you see this too. Like something happens, nobody brings it up. It's just there with them for years or decades. And we were just decided, like, no, man, we're going to talk about it. We're going to work through it, process it, and we're letting go of it. And
that's interesting. Yeah, Jessica, she tends to be the one that I'll address stuff quicker. And it's funny, the dynamics and relationships, right? On how that works. I'll be the one like, no, we need to talk about this. And she likes to sit on it a little bit more and kind of think through it, or she's it's kind of a pattern. It's a habit. I would say it's a standard where we don't, we've decided, hey, we just will not let this ruin our relationship. We won't let this get in the way of our connection. Like, and so we got to just go through the pain right now. Like, and sometimes it's it might be a day or two of just kind of feeling a little awkward or a little bit funny about it, or a couple days, and I've also learned to take my hands off it. I'm a controller. So I like to control things and try to get her to not feel too much pain, or like adjust it, or, hey, let's work it out. Let's figure. I've also learned in this last probably year that, hey, allow her to go through her feminine journey. The feminine journey is up and down, man. It's the flow. It's the flow. And so she's going to be super happy, and she's going to hit some deep lows. Most women, some women are amazing. They got blessed. They don't have the highs and lows, right? Jessica will have her highs, and she'll have her lows for like 2-3 days. And so I've learned to not micromanage. I just love on her while she's in that low. Nothing I can do may be right. And so I kind of I'm just going with the flow of this and just letting her move through, and then she'll pop back out. Huge. And then,
it's the waves, right? It's just the waves.
Yeah. I think as men, if we realize that, like, it's not you, just go with it. Right. And just like keep loving on her through her tension and her tenseness, and right. Just keep loving on her, even if she's being a little difficult. Like, just what can you do to love on her even more? Like that's what happened. Like, we had even last night, it was just, or the night before, like I ended up sending her, I wrote her a love letter. Perfect. Hey, I love you. You're the only one I want. I'm in this for the long term. Like, I wrote out this whole thing. And so but that was after we had the bad date night. So what I've made a habit of doing anytime we fight The next morning, I'll always do something to make it up, even if it was not me at all. I'd say it's never my fault. No, I'm just kidding. So anytime, no. So anytime we're fighting, right? It's I'll write a letter and like I'll show her as much love as I can, and it softens her because she's in her defense mode, right? I want to break through that, otherwise we're going nowhere, right? So I'll like do something to break right through, and then that way, like, and then give it space, and she'll usually come and she'll write a message back or do something.
And that's
kind of our
little nugget there of total awesome sauce. Writing seems to be it's so powerful. My wife, like a handwritten note from me is like a treasure box, man, and she'll hold on to them and save them. So writing something out, a little text message, an email, something like that, it doesn't take much time, but man, I found it, and you have too, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to something you said that I thought was so profound. It's because you've set a standard, and we feel the same way. It's like we want an absolutely extraordinary marriage, and there's a standard that like why settle for good? Good isn't good enough when excellence and extraordinary is possible. And so because of the standard, you guys and we are willing to like, no, we're not going to let this fester. We're not going to let it stay. Like we're going to address it. We're going to work through it because we have this standard we want to live by. And I think that's true just across the board, right? With your 4 pillars, you set a standard, and that kind of sets the tone for how you're going to deal with things that come up.
Yep. Yeah, we'll live up to our standards that are set for us or the ones we set for ourselves. Right. So we live up to that in our marriage. Like we do have that standard. And I think, yeah. And like we talked about, because we talk about level 10 marriages, right? So how do we get our marriage to a level 10? And the thing is, once you get to a level 10, there's a whole nother level 10. Like there's multiple level 10s, which really means you don't get to level 10, but there's multiple level 10s, not only in emotional intimacy, but also sexually. Like, man, there's a whole nother level 10 of fun and playfulness and eroticness and just cool stuff that can happen in marriage sexually when you go do all the other stuff right, when you take care of your queen, when you love on her, when you practice opening yourself up to her. Like there's a lot of there's a whole nother level 10. And so we're all about the level 10s, but to have a level 10, to get to the next level 10, you have to be willing to let go of the current level that you're at. And most people are not willing to rock the boat. Like one of the things I did to get to our sex life to a level 10 was I had a conversation with her and I said, hey babe, so I love our sex life, and I was thinking about it. I just wanted to know what you would rate our sex life at. And I knew this conversation would throw her off like hardcore. And she's like, well, why do you want to know that? I'm like, well, I'm curious, and I'll share what I would rate it at, because I'd like to know where you're at, and I'd like to know how to get to the next level. And so she rated it at like a 7. I think I rated it like an 8. But then it got super weird, man. She got really she started crying. She went to her bed. We didn't talk for like 2 days. It was like 8 years ago. We didn't talk for like 2 days. And then she came back. So I was willing to risk it. I knew that was going to like bring major tension talking about sex, and then basically saying, I want it better. Right. I want to have a better sex life was what I was saying. Right. And go tell that to your wife. Hey, I'd like to have a better sex life. Right. It's going to throw a wrench. But on the other side of that is an opportunity to get to the next level. And so from that, she came and she said, hey, actually, yes, I would love to have an improved sex life also. Like I want to get to a level 10 also. She's like, it just triggered me. It triggered all the pain. It triggered all this stuff. And, and so we got to be willing to risk it, So it's yeah.
And that process is perfect. Actually, like I've even done that with my kids. I'll just go to them and say, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate our relationship right now?
It's great.
And then the golden question is afterwards, they come back, they're like, oh, 7, 8, whatever. And then the key question is, what would make it a 10? And if you do that with your sex life, with dating, with listening, with conversation, communication, kids, work, like whatever, just where's it at? What would make it a 10? And just pursue that, man. That's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah. So powerful. All right. Any last thoughts? Something's bing on your mind that some experience you'd like to share with guys? Like what's What's been standing out to you recently that just feels so important for you to experience yourself and chase or share with others?
It's definitely a topic of transparency and authenticity. But if we were to shift, we talked about that. But if we were to shift to something else that's very important, I mean, I don't know how into faith your listeners are, but man, I've been on a journey of just reconciling my soul with Christ. And so what happens is there's our soul is compromised of your inside of a circle. The first circle inside there is your will or your heart or your spirit. It's all like one. Your will, your decision to be able to make a decision. Like that's our God-given gift. And then on the outside of that is our thoughts, all of our thoughts that we have. And then on the outside of that is our emotions, the emotions we feel. On the outside of that is our body, our bodily functions. And then on the outside of that is our social relationships. And on the outside of that is our soul. So our soul encompasses all of that. And what happens is why many people don't feel peace is those things are disintegrated.
Yep.
Their emotions are off. Their thoughts are off. They're not in alignment under Christ.
Exactly.
And so God is not at the top. And so what happens is, yeah, our souls, there's this in a state of chaos, man, internally.
Yep.
And so we think it's if we journal more or if we do this more or if we do that. It's like, no, man, we need to have some spiritual formation that's done in our soul. And we do that through reading and studying scripture and having the intention for him to bring all of those things in alignment under Christ so we can be like Christ. And so that's been what I've been really journeying through. And there's a really good book called Renovation of the Heart by Dallas Willard. It goes into that it's a very deep book. But man, if we can have more men that live like Jesus and we're at peace, it'll change the world. That love like Jesus did, it'll change the world. But we have so many broken men, complete just brokenness, even if it's their anger that they give that they show to their wife or their kids. It's stemming from a soul that's not been it needs some spiritual formation, right?
Yeah.
And which I'm on that journey. And so I think it's, hey, if you're going to spend time doing anything, dude, jump in the word, spend 15, 20 minutes. Don't just do a verse of the day. Don't just do a little 3-minute thing. Like go spend 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day and spend time. And that will shift you completely.
Exactly. I had that same experience. And it just priceless spending time in the word and then taking it and really trying to be it, right? To exercise it, to live by it. Because it's possible to go through the motions of it, but to let it just sink in. Again, like I like to say, is like the goal isn't to get through the book, it's to get the book through you. And specifically in this case, the book, to get it to go through you. And I love the renovation of the heart, right? The spiritual formation to bring things back into alignment and get that inner peace of the soul. Dude, love it, brother. Love it. Then when you flip on the power from the inside out.
Exactly.
Right. And just radiate and live with that peace and love. Man, that's awesome. Okay. Where can people connect with you, brother?
Yeah, well, I have my book on Amazon. Just launched that a couple months ago. 2-Day CEO, tells my whole story and how we scale and grow companies. Really cool, interesting stuff in there. I get pretty real. And then riseupkings.com put on events for men, really intense events that kind of do a lot of that soul level work, I would say. And so, yeah, that book, the book's great. And then, yeah, riseupkings.com, man. We're on social media, Skylar, with the A, Skylar, Lewis, Lewis.
Fantastic. Love that. And are these events you do, what would you say percentage wise is business, personal, or do you do different events? You have some that are strictly business, some that are personal. Is it the mix of the
we have about 6 different events that we run, including a marriage retreat. But the first event, which is like it's called the Refinery. Yeah. And the whole process is to develop and to refine a man. And so it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical, Like you don't have to be fit to go through it, but we'll push you a little bit physically, and then it's a business. So I teach some of the 2-day CEO content and training. And so that's only for business owners. And then we have the Awakening, which is a very similar event for non-business owners. We just launched that. We have our second one coming up, I think next week. And then we have the Crucible, which is a similar event, but for 18 to 26-year-olds. So now we have a full series to cover this because it's been so transformational.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of events you go learn stuff, like this is all about inner transformation. I want a guy to leave differently than he did when he came. Like, not just have head knowledge, but I want him to be a different human being when he walks out.
Exactly.
With God's present. The Holy Spirit's at every event, dude. Is wicked. It's just like he is present at these events, and so he's doing his work in their heart. And so it's a really neat experience. So
that's awesome,
I love it,
brother. I love it, man. Doing the good work in the world, man. That's fantastic.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Likewise,
Skylar. Thanks, man. Thank you for like your transparency and openness, even here, man. Just sharing who you are and your mission and your work and your story. It's inspiring, and thanks for doing good in the world, and thanks for coming on to share it, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Thanks for having me on board. This was fun.